The next photo we'll do this picture of Sonora right here. It was just really good lighting and sunrise in a field up in this place I know off of Interstate 90. So we'll go for it. Come in here, we'll take the exposure up it a bit, like right there. So come in here to the coloring, and we'll just see what looks like what. I like a warm a little bit, and we'll see what the tint brings. Yeah, I like that. That's a solid start. So first thing I notice, just go in here and tweak a few things. Yeah, so first thing I notice is that, can't really show you where I'm pointing, but the bottom where the grass is, there's not much contrast in it. It's very light. I want to darken that. So we'll come in, we'll start with these instead of a gradient filter. Bring that down a little, bring the blacks down, bring the white up, bring the highlights up a little bit. So right off the bat, that's a pretty solid start. I'd say maybe bring the blacks up just a, so I guess what's in my mind right now is the fact that I want the things to be dark, but I also don't want Sonora to be super dark in the photo. So we'll find kind of a middle ground. It's only an iPhone app, you can only do so much. So we'll go right there, maybe see if the contrast makes it look good. A little contrast in there looks good. Come over here, I think I'm gonna put a little bit more up in the exposure. And then I'm gonna come here and crop it so she's a little more in the middle. I also am super particular about cropping. We will come in here to the gradient masks and start playing with that. Also, one thing I didn't mention too is like there's all this extra stuff that I've never paid for either. Yeah, so yeah, you can go look through that. I'm using literally the free version of the app, and I've loved it. I've never had to buy the full version, so yeah. Free version gets by just fine. So darken the stuff down here a little bit. And then I should probably go into curves real quick and get that sorted out. Just the hue saturation, or the highlights and darks, just get those even so I know kind of where I'm working with. That looks fine. Just fade it a little bit. I don't want to go too hard. But make sure I clip my whites here. Again, it's a black background, so you can't really tell where your whites are that well until you see it on a thing later, on a white background later. So, solid start. I think first thing I'm going to come back in here again and just up the shadows a bit. Push the darks so there's not so much like, yeah, so pretty solid start right there. Let's go into hue, saturation, luminance, come into the greens, and like just see how it changes the greens there. We'll go like right there and come to yellow and see what that affects. Yeah, yellow affects it a lot more. So bring the yellows down, maybe bring the greens back up just a little bit. Oops. One thing about this app too is you have to click on that. So for instance, if I hit green hue, adjusted it to where I wanted, and then went to yellow hue and started messing around with it, like it's gonna still affect the green hue as you can see. So I would have to hit the yellow hue, and now yellow hue is activated. So that's one tricky thing about this app. Just make sure you're on top of that. That's cool. Now we'll mess around with these flowers. Add a little saturation in there. They're reading as magenta and purple, most likely. Up the luminance in them. Looks good to me. And then let's come into the curves and add a little bit of... I kind of like the blue here. And then a little red, rather, in the shadows this time. Or the highlights this time. And then... I won't do too much in there, and then maybe add a little warmth to the shadows as well, and a little, I like maybe right there, and then like a little warmth in the highlights. And then one thing I totally forgot to do on the last photo is this, the toning tab. So this is also in Lightroom, and it's just, so I'll just show you exactly what it does. See, like I have shadows targeted, and I can just kind of color them. That's super extreme, but we'll do highlights because I want to do that first. We'll probably put them like around the yellowish green, pump it up just a little bit, mess around to see where I like it. That's good. I like it a little bit on the yellower side than the green side. This is where a white background helps so much in editing those highlights, because I don't know, this looks fine right now on the black background, but like I assure you, I probably won't be stoked on it when I put it on a white background. In fact, I'm going to up the exposure because I can already tell it's going to be too contrasty against a white background. So, yeah, take it down just a little bit. So that's that, and then I'll come back into here and do the shadows now. Sometimes like it's just like there you don't even want to change it though, and that's totally okay. Or maybe just add very subtleties to it, like right there, and then maybe come into the hue and the yellow and just yellow it up a bit, and maybe add a little saturation. And then where's this gradient filter? So this is on the bottom. I'm going to run another bottom gradient filter right here, and then take the exposure down a little. So that kind of brings the focus more into her. So that's before the gradient mask. That's after it. It just like pulls your eye into her a little bit more. Maybe a little less intense. Keep the bottom like that. Oops. And then go back to number 2. Maybe make it a little smaller. Thing kind of gets in the way, so you can't exactly tell if it's good or not. But that's solid, and I'll do one more gradient filter at the bottom here, and I might run a gradient filter at the top as well. So yeah, like right there looks fine. Probably knock this up just a little bit brighter. Looks good to me. And then maybe add a gradient filter at the top here. Just barely, nothing too crazy. Yeah, that's looking fine. Yeah, I like that, I guess. I guess we could take down the whites maybe. Yeah, that looks nice. I like that actually a lot. And then I can tell I'm going to want this a little bit brighter on a white background, so I'll pop it up a little bit to like right there, bring down the shadows just a slight. Yeah, so that's the before, that's the after. That was only like 9 minutes of work on that photo, so looks good to me. So go ahead and save it as a copy. So the before image right here, the after one right here. To be honest, I'm not satisfied with this edit. I would go back and actually edit this photo a little bit more. I'll point out what I don't like. The coloring in it is it's a little too warm. I would make it a little bit more cooler, number one. It always goes back to, like, and I know I sound way too anal about this, but the black background. Like, I think it's so much more difficult to edit on a black background versus a white background. And I mean, it all depends on what your website looks like or where your photo's going. But most of my photos, actually pretty much all my photos, go onto a white background. So it's frustrating editing on a black one because it looks completely different here. I think it looks a little underexposed. So I'd pop up the exposure. I'd make it a little bit cooler. One other major thing that bugs the crap out of me, and it's just like a personal thing, is so right here you see like this white basically blends into the white background. And so I clip the whites a little bit, and you can see it doesn't exactly blend in, but the matter is it's close enough. So I would go back into the curve panel and clip the highlights a little bit more. Overall, this is a fine edit. Like I said, I would up the exposure, make it a little bit cooler, tweak the split toning, clip the curves a little, and yeah, but not a bad edit, so I'll take it.